Mishna Yudaled. ביאור משנה י"ד. כהן שלקה באצבעו. A Kohen that got cut on his finger on Shabbat. כורך עליה גמי במקדש. Is allowed to put in it a gemi במקדש. It's a reed. A reed. Like a green stuff. You know, the green grass. Some grass that is also medicine. They have some grasses, you know, all kinds of grasses. Yeah, gemi is the... Yeah. Yeah, what did they use to... What is the gemi over there? A reed. A piece of grass. Yeah. אם הוא צריך לעבוד עבודה במקדש, if he needs to serve in the temple, and he's got a cut on his finger now, and there's blood coming out, it's not nice, you know, to have your blood all over the place. מותר לו לכרוך גמי על מכתו. He's allowed to put a piece of string, not a string, a piece of grass on his wound. שאף על פי, but we said before that if it's for, this is, in other words, we said before that you're not allowed to use medicine even in the temple on Shabbat. And you.
Not medicine, this is just a syrup.
Oh, but it does very good. It looks, it's like, but it says, so listen over here, אף על פי שהגמי מרפא קצת את המכה. It's true that it has, these grasses have some healing effect, a little bit. But it says that's not the purpose what he's putting it on. He's putting it on so it doesn't bleed all over the place. Yeah, like we put the plaster. מכל מקום, אין זה מן הראוי שתהא מכתו נראית בשעת העבודה. It says it's not nice. This guy is bleeding all over the place at the time that he's working. בגמרא אמרו שדווקא בגמרא אמרו, in the Gemara this says, שדווקא כשלקה במקום שלא יחוץ הגומי בין בשרו לכלי. We're not talking about any place in your body you're allowed to put it. You're only allowed to put it in places where there's not going to be, I mean, you have to put it over here, for example, because here you don't, that's right, you would not be allowed to put it. Yeah. כגון באצבע של שמאל, for example, or another example, it's your left hand that got cut, and you walk with the right hand in the temple. שאין עבודה אלא בימין, because in the temple, you're only allowed to walk with your right hand, או בימין, שלא במקום עבודה, or even in the right hand, but not in a place that you work with. כגון בגב היד, for example, over here. In the dead hand, you're allowed to put it over here. Yeah. וכן...
No, if you put it here,
you don't have to. You don't have to. You just stick it, yeah. Leaf. Boom. Whatever. וכן דווקא גמי, specifically גמי, אבל לא בגד. כגון אזור קטן. משום איתור בגדים. But not we're not allowed to wear bandage. אבל כל שאין בגד בפני עצמו, why do we not allow you to make a beged? Because we're afraid you're going to start cutting garments. אבל כל שאינו בגד בפני עצמו, אם אינו במקום בגדים, כגון על אצבעו על עקבו, but if it's not, and also there's another problem, because it says that there's only 5 garments that you're allowed to wear. If you put another garment on you, said what, a 6th garment? Yeah, you're wearing it. Yeah, you're putting it, it looks like you're wearing another garment, so we're not going to let you. So it has to be that everybody can see it's a glyph or something else, so it doesn't look like a garment. Okay. אבל כל שאינו בגד בפני עצמו, but if it's not a clothing by itself, אם אינו במקום בגדים, if it's not in a place where you usually have clothing, כגון על אצבעו, על עקבו, for example, on your finger or on your heel, אינו חוצץ, אלא בשיעור של 3 אצבעות על 3 אצבעות. If it's less than 3 by 3, it's not called separating. If it's less than 3 by 3. שזה מכל מקום פוסל, ולא משום חצל ודד, אלא משום איתור בגדים. It says, once it's more than 3 by 3, you have a problem because it looks like you're adding a garment. So it has to be less than 3 by 3, and it has to be in a place which is not going to be worked on. Okay. So that you're allowed to do well in the temple. Only in the temple. אבל לא במדינה, but not in the country. מחוץ, outside of the temple, you're not allowed to. מחוץ למקדש, אסור לאדם לכרוך גמי על מכתו בשבת. Outside of the temple, a person is allowed to put gemi on his wound on Shabbat. Why? So plaster you're allowed to for sure. We see why? Because the gemi, הואיל והגמי מרפא קצת את המכה. There's this leaf that you're going to put has medicinal qualities to some extent. If it has no medicinal qualities, maybe you're allowed to do it even in the Medina, like we do with the plaster. It doesn't help at all.
Because it has a healing.
That's right. Chachamim asru maaseh ripui b'Shabbat, and Chachamim say you're not allowed to do it. Gzera shema yavo lidei shchikat semanei refuah. We're afraid maybe you're going to come and grind some spices for it for Shabbat once we let you. Im lehotzi dam, but if the guy, there's another thing that we need to discuss. Nobody does it today, but in the old time they used to do it all the time. It's called lehakiz dam, to let out blood. It used to be a medicine. People would go once a month, and they used to let their blood come out, whatever amount, and in their minds it used to be healthy. Yeah, for medicinal purposes, they thought, according to the doctors, so in other words, you're doing it for medicine. So that's for the purpose you're doing it. You're doing it for medicinal purposes. So that's the next part. Im lehotzidam, if the guy put the reed on his finger and he's making it tight, and he's doing it, why? Because he wants blood to come out. That's why he's doing it, not to protect the other thing. He's doing it almost like as a medicine for himself. Even in the temple, im להוציא דם, שמהדק את הגמי על המכה כדי לסחוט ממנה דם. In other words, makes it tight so that the blood will come out. כאן וכאן אסור. Even in the temple, he's not going to be allowed to, because then he's using it for medicine, not for protection of the other things. אף במקדש אסור, שאין זה צורך עבודה, because he's doing it for himself, not for God. He's trying to heal himself. He's not trying to protect God's vessels. ועוד, that's one thing. משום שהוא חובל, and besides that, he's making a wound. He's increasing the wound. That's what he's doing. ולא התירו אף מלאכה במקדש. And this is ממש a מלאכה, a work in the temple. And for himself. A work in the temple for himself, which is not allowed. Next one. Okay. We're going to see what buzkin melach. I'm not quite sure how they say kotetim. Okay, I think there's two explanations. Let's see soon. Buzkin melach al gabei hakeves. So you have to remember Yerushalayim. They had the altar, very tall, and then they had this ramp coming down from the altar, and it's raining and it's snowing and there's blood all over the place. You can imagine that thing was very slippery, especially in the snow, in the rain. And you're going up, what do you do with it? How you may slip, you fall, die. Yeah. So kotetin melach, you're allowed to grind up salt. You have a big chunk of salt, you're allowed to grind it, like this. Umefazrim oto b'Shabbat al gabei hakeves, and you will lay it down on Shabbat on the ramp, right? She'olim bo lamizbeach, that you go up to it, to the altar. Bishvil shelo yachliku. Keves, yeah. Keves is keves, yeah. Ramp is keves in Hebrew. Ramp in Hebrew is keves, just like the sheep. Yeah. Bishvil shelo yachliku. In order so that they will not slip. העולים והיורדים בו, those that go up and down in him, את רגליהם, לפי שהכבש היה חלק ולא מדרגות, there was no steps on it. It was very smooth. ברם, במדינה אסור, מפני שהוא כמתקן בשבת. In the country you're not allowed to, because it is like fixing on Shabbat. So if it's Shabbat, over here in Tucson you never have this problem, but you live in New York, and the sidewalk is all ice, and you want to take some salt. Even if there's two questions over here. First of all, are you allowed to grind it up? Like this with your finger. I don't know. I don't know what it says in the set. Yeah. But the question is when it says when they say the word buzkin, I'm not quite sure what they're talking about. Does buzkin means to crush, or does buzkin means to spread? Yeah? I'm not quite sure which one you're not allowed to do it. So you're saying crush for sure you're not allowed to. Even to spread you will not be allowed to. Yeah. So it looks like, it doesn't matter, it looks like over here, even in the East Coast, and then there's snow on Shabbat, you're not allowed to spread out salt from this one. And in the temple you would be, but over here you're not. Even though it's in your own domain, you're not allowed to do it. בשביל לא יחליקו. ברם במדינה אסורה מפני שהוא כמתקן בשבת, because it's like fixing on Shabbat. וממלאים מים במקדש. Oh, that's another thing. Let's discuss this. Usually when you think about drawing up water from a well, what everybody thinks, there's a bucket, you take the drawed water, and you go like this, to pick up the bucket. But later on they said, well, this is hard work. So they made all kinds of instruments to draw the water. They made a wheel, right? Now, with a wheel, if it's a bucket, they put like a 5-gallon bucket. That's it. That's your strength. You're not going to put a 30-pound bucket because you don't have the strength to pick it up. Yeah. But once you have the wheel, you can put a 30-pound bucket down there, and every time because it's all thing. So it says, when you draw up on Shabbat, you're not allowed to use those buckets on Shabbat. Why not? What's the difference? I'm not doing any work. Let's see. So, let's go. ממלאים מים במקדש. In the temple, you're allowed to fill out water, מבור הגולה ומבור הגדול. From two kinds of pits. It's called the pit of the gola and the big pit. What are they? כך נקראו שתי בערות. This is the names of two wells. שהיו באחת הלשכות של העזרה. That these wells used to be in Yerushalayim, in the Azara, in the temple area. Begalgal beShabbat. They had this instrument, the galgal, the wheel, on Shabbat. שמעלים בו את הדלי על ידי חבלים. That you took the bucket through ropes, ומשני הבורות הללו בלבד התירו למלא מים בגלגל בשבת. These are the only two holes that you are allowed to take water on Shabbat. אבל מבורות אחרים, but if you have in your city or in your backyard a well, you're not allowed to use in your backyard, you're not allowed to use if you had a galgal, you're not allowed to use it. אבל מבורות אחרים אסרו חכמים למלא בגלגל בשבת. Why not? שהואיל ובגלגל נשאבים המים בלי טרחה יתרה, because by בגלגל you pick up a lot of water and it's easy ובמהירות and it's quick. גזרו חכמים, it says you have to remember your mindset. The mindset is water is it's very needed at the time. You don't just throw away water. If you take out water, automatically what's going to happen? You're going to draw up water. I just want to drink, but I'm taking out 30 gallons. And in my mind, I don't really need to drink. I just want, there's going to be water available from my garden later on. That's what they say. He says, he's going to come and he's going to put it in the bucket. Yeah, he's going to say, I just want to drink. He doesn't really want just to drink. He wants to make sure that after Shabbat, he has enough water for the garden. That's why it's going to happen. Because if you're taking just one bucket, obviously it's not for the garden. But over here, you're taking a lot. Let's say there's a container that you're bringing up, right? Okay? שמא יבוא להשקות מהם את גינתו בשבת ונמצא עובר משום זורע. It says, in other words, he's going to come and water his garden with it. And it's also automatic. You drink a little bit and you give the garden. Are you going to waste everything you took out? You're not going to think about it. ובאר הקר ביום טוב. What's באר הקר in Yom Tov? Not on Shabbat, but in Yom Tov they permitted. Let's see what happened. בגמרא מבואר, in the Gemara it explains, שבאר הקר הייתה זו באר במדינה. It was a well not in the temple. It was a well out of the temple. And they allowed it. It says, why? How is this well different than all other wells? What's so special about it? והיא נקראת באר הקר. And it is called the well hakar. Why? קר means cold. על שם שהייתה באר מים חיים. Because it was a spring. Most of the be'ers, most of the wells, how do they come? The water from around the walls of the well seep in. Yeah? So the water is the temperature of the earth around it. Over here, it was the well comes straight into the wall, into this well. The spring started in the bottom of the well, which means the water over there are going to be cold water all the time. It's going to be freezing water. A regular well water is the temperature of the ground around it. But this well was cold, because it always had new water inside. It's not a water that stayed. It's new. In other words, the spring came into the well and then flowed out. Yeah, exactly. That's on a well. Yeah, that's not a well, but imagine you would make. Yeah, but you imagine you will build the well around it and it will come from the top. And it's always going to be cold. That's why it's called באר הקר. But still, what's the difference? על שם שהייתה באר מים חיים. והיה בה צורך לבני הגולה כשהיו עולים ברגל לירושלים. And it was a necessity for the people of the exile that used to come down to ירושלים. והתירו להם הנביאים שבין עולי הגולה. So this is in the time where people are coming from Babylon back into Israel for the holidays. And who is going with these people who are coming, all these people, who's leading them back to Israel? The three prophets, Chagai, Zachariah, and Malachi. They're coming with the people back. And when they're going, these three prophets says, you know what? Since we're going up to Yerushalayim, yeah, from this well right now, we're allowed to use, because otherwise you've got 100,000 people over there. And it says,
they're not going to waste the water.
oh, very good. It says, from this well, you're allowed to take even more. It's more than one bucket. It brings out lots and lots of water because nobody's going to. It's for the. Look how many people we have over here. למלא ממנה מים בגלגל ביום טוב. So once Chagai, Zechariah, Malachi says, this was the well on the way to Yerushalayim. It says once they allow them to use it, so everybody says, okay, this one stays. And from this one, we always be allowed to use. Yeah. ומאז נשארה באר זו ביתרה. Since Chagai, Zechariah, and Malachi says this well is kosher, to use with it a will, it remained kosher forever. אבל בארות אחרות, but other wells, אסור להם בגלגל אפילו ביום טוב. You're not allowed to use with the will even on a Yom Tov, not just on Shabbat.